Good morning, Matt Waldman. How are you this fine day?
Good morning, Bob Harris. I don't know. It's a cool day here in Georgia. I've never had a below 75 day in Georgia in early August, which I'm kind of enjoying. But kind of weird, I got to say, after being here for the better part of 44 years, I think, or 45 years at this point. So yeah, kind of nutty. How about you? How are you doing?
74 degrees in beautiful Dallas, Texas, or right outside thereabouts. And there was a huge thunderstorms overnight, so that's why it's cool today. Otherwise, it's going to be a steamy mess as usual, I'm sure.
Wouldn't you love Bob Harris to be your meteorologist?
No,
Not
nobody
me.
needs that.
You wouldn't want me either. There we go.
Nobody needs that. Hell, hardly anyone wants us as their fantasy analyst. But for the few who do, here we are for another rousing episode of Feel It or Fuck It, your favorite podcast out there, where we will both feel and fuck various players and circumstances that might or might not be fortuitous for them, but more importantly, for us as fantasy investors. There you go. I set it up. Wait, by the way, find Matt's work at mattwaldman.com, the rookie scouting portfolio, of course, the centerpiece of that, but all kinds of goodies that are and associated content that's ongoing this time of year, Matt.
Yeah, we've got the first August update, the first update of the month, coming out in a few days. Might be sooner than that. Might even
Usually is.
Might be tonight. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it till August 6th or 7th, just as a buffer. We'll see if anything kind of crazy pops off. But you're going to get updated win now and long-term rankings, as well as updated projections. So I've been working on that throughout from June through pretty much yesterday, and just resetting the rankings and kind of working through that. And of course, if you want to get that, your RSP pre-draft, post-draft as your companion piece to this, you get really the most in-depth scouting reports on the four positions that I study, that you're going to find pretty much anywhere. And you get the post-draft with it, so you get my initial thoughts on team fit and maybe a longer-term look on how I view these players. So it's a great combination for less than a night out at the movies. Let's just put it that way. Or even
by golly.
By golly.
It's been a while since I've been out for a night in the movies, but I'm told it's quite expensive.
Yeah.
All right, so check all that out. Check out footballguys.com. We're both there. You'll find articles, my weekly fantasy notebook, one out this week. There will not be one next week, but if you happen to be at the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton, Ohio, come say hello to me. Ask me who I'm feeling and fucking and all those things. Always look forward to those interactions. Calvin Austin, we're still feeling them. Okay, we got a lot going on. So we've had a game, or a reasonable facsimile thereof, in the Hall of Fame game. Most notable for the great Trey Lance to Will Dissly touchdown pass. I guess it's more notable for other things, though. Omarion Hampton, Matt, did not look quick enough in his red zone carry. Feel it or fuck it.
Oh, fuck that noise. Let's just fuck. I watched that carry, and I'm thinking to myself, could he have bent it inside in the flat before he went to the boundary? Yes, he had to bounce it outside based on what I saw. Even if he didn't, let's just say I'm completely wrong. I just woke up and I didn't, and I looked at that carry once and decided, oh yeah, I should have looked at it a few more times. Even so, it's not good to judge burst with running backs off of one carry. It's not good to judge it off of like preseason work. We've done this before, first year or early career with James Conner. We've done it with David Montgomery, and we make these kind of assumptions based on things that are just limited data and understanding of whether it's the line play, whether he was confused by what the defense was doing, and it caused him to slow down mentally and physically with that. He's getting used to the scheme a little bit. It could be a number of things that he was overthinking that slowed him down, or it just could happen to be that the defenders had great angles, so there's a lot of stuff like that comes into it. I remember hearing that Nick Chubb didn't have enough burst from a former safety playing for an NFC East team on Twitter. during his rookie year, and that he was just never going to be a starter. I remember hearing that from that former starting safety. I mean, if they can't judge it, we're not going to be able to judge that extraordinarily well off of just a few selected looks. So at the same time, I'll say this, Bob, real quick, is that I did think that his burst was a little bit suspect compared to the way people talked about him, in the sense that when I did watch dozens of clips with him, well, way more than that, but lots of games with him, what you did see is that there was a consistency where maybe getting through the box clean and beating box defenders was not as easy for him as people made it out to be. Like that he was this game breaker who was going to just burst through defenses like he was Bijan Robinson or something. And really he needs a bigger track to get downfield and build up that top speed than what he's probably going to get in the league. It doesn't make him a failure. It just means he's probably not the breakaway back that people expect this big guy to be.
Life hack. Unless it's this podcast, the Field or Fuck It show with Matt Waldman and Bob Harris, don't judge anything on a single sentence piece of evidence, right? Like just generally speaking, the more you can decide things. You can see a single thing and get a gut feeling or a sense of something. But my suggestion, after many years on the planet, is to add further evidence to build a case to make your point, and that would be the case with Omarion Hampton. No, he did not look quick enough in his red zone carry. Also, it was a single thing, so don't determine anything based on a single thing. Think more in terms of what's his workload going to be going forward. Think more in terms of what this offense has done historically with Greg Roman calling the plays. Think historically of what running backs have done in this offense. Look at some of those things and add those for a little bit of context to your otherwise singular point of data to give you a broader base of information and some perspective from which to work there. And probably,
I feel like I got a civics lesson.
Yeah, you're welcome. That'll end my TED talk for today. I don't know. I mean, go read your rookie scouting portfolio. Read what it says about Omarion Hampton. Look at his body of work in college. 1,500 yards from scrimmage each of the last 2 years. 15 touchdowns. I mean, look at his physical build. Look at the circumstances. Oh, Najee Harris can't do a darn thing because of a 4th of July accident in which his eye was injured, and he still has not been on the field. Could that change at some point? Yes. And when it does, add that to the evidence. And, the calculus you're performing is we're trying to decide what the value of a young running back is coming into offense that at the moment looks like he's going to get the preponderance of the workload. So all those things. Kids, all those things. You mentioned, so no, fuck that. He did not look quick enough or look too quick or any of those things. It was one play. Nick Chubb, you mentioned him. Been a lot of talk out of Houston where he is playing that he has not looked great. The blocking has not looked great either. But you mentioned him losing his burst. Feel it or fuck it. Has Nick Chubb lost his burst?
I'm going to say fuck it at the risk of being wrong. And we all, again, I'm over the moon about this guy as a player, long term. But I'll put it this way. Again, it's the same factors at play. The same, we got the same thing with James Conner, in Pittsburgh when people were talking Benny Snell on Monday Night Football having more juice than James Conner, which was just never. I think that you have to understand that he is learning a new scheme, learning new blockers. It's not so much the scheme as it is the blockers and how they function. So you can be a little bit more tentative working against your blockers, especially in practice when you're not going to be running over your blockers and risk getting them hurt. It's not a high contact environment right now. So again, he's probably trying to get a feel for who tends to be a little late to a block, who tends to be a little early, how he sets guys up. He's worked several years with a lot of the same crew in Cleveland. even the backups. So he's trying to kind of gauge who he's working with, because the thing that Nick Chubb does as well or better than anybody in the league is set up defenders into his blocks. And you don't do that well unless you really have good knowledge of those teammates around you. So there's that. There's also just the fact that, again, it's tough to judge burst. The probably one of the worst places to judge running backs is practice. I mean, even Kyle Shanahan will say, who, as we know, creates great ground games, has said we never know what we really have in a running back until we see them in live action with real hitting and real stakes on the line. You just never quite fully know. And he's correct about that. I mean, if you looked at if Terrell Davis was, or Isaiah Crowell are good examples of guys, two other Georgia backs. If you judge them based on their preseason play, or not preseason, their training camp play, neither of them would have been on the teams that they were on. Neither of them would have been 1,000-yard rushers. One of them wouldn't be a Hall of Famer. So you just have to kind of keep that in mind and know that when people start judging that kind of stuff, they really don't see the full question. I mean, I remember being in a location in somewhere in Alabama, southern Alabama, where they had the first Mardi Gras, talking about DeMarco Murray and how he looked horrible at the Senior Bowl. And no burst whatsoever. He just didn't seem like he was playing all that well. I'm thinking he looked good, but I mean, there are a lot of people who are scouts who were just like, no, I don't think this guy really has it. Meanwhile, I'm having the conversation of my life with Sam Gash and Ernest Biner, and they both think the guy's a thoroughbred. It's hard to see what running back actually does in this environment. So I'm going to say, even though the knee is a tough thing to really gauge how well he's going to be able to play through a season, the burst part for right now, considering that someone I know connected to the UGA program said Nick Chubb ran 23 miles per hour in spring workouts, and even we know that number may have some variation, but it doesn't. But even if he's over 20, which is probably the case, if he ran that high, that's still NFL caliber speed, and I'm sure that the acceleration is still good.
So unlike with Omarion Hampton, where I have at least one play of firsthand knowledge of what to start building a case, I have zero firsthand knowledge. I'm taking secondhand knowledge from beat writers who are putting it in context of, the blocking's not that great. It's a new offense. Maybe he's not trying that hard. He's not trying to run anybody over because it's training camp practices. There are a lot of unknowns here. But what do we know? He's coming off a serious injury, right? And he didn't get signed by anybody until very late in the proceedings, and only then when it appears Joe Mixon's foot issue, which was supposed to be not an issue, remained an issue. So all those things, as I'm piecing together the pieces and I'm plugging bits of data into my continuum of information that is ever evolving, and as I get more information, I'm adjusting my thoughts and my views accordingly. Right now, I don't think super highly of Nick Chubb. The good news is I don't have to pay very much for Nick Chubb. So do I have some shares? Yes, because I'm getting him in the 18th, 19th round of a best ball draft, and the contingent upside, if he gets a job or takes over this job, or Joe Mixon misses some time, like I also have some shares of Woody Marks for this same reason, right? So, but if you're in a single league, this is not a huge issue for you. You're probably not going to be digging this deep. You're going to have ample time to see the evidence and before you land him on your waiver wire. If you want to be proactive in that regard, we're going to try and give you the best information we can. And that's what the beat writers are trying to do. They're trying to give you a picture of what's going on. But, again, it's a continuum of information. It's any single report or any single handful of reports or a day of reports. And so I think this is a good time to jump into this one then as well. The Bears, we've heard various things, some things we know. Dave Kluge made a great point. The Detroit Lions in the first year of Dan Campbell were not great. They were like 3-13. Sometimes the the ship takes a little time to turn around, right? So we got Ben Johnson showing up in Chicago. We're expecting great things for this offense. We've heard various reports. Hell, I heard Ben Johnson say just yesterday that the offense was horrible and sloppy. We've heard him pull Luther Burden off the field. We've heard that Caleb Williams has struggled at times. We're hearing a lot of things and not a ton of positive, although Caleb Williams did have, I think, a really good practice on Saturday, or a decent practice, at least Friday or Saturday, one of those days. Whatever the case, we're going to put a broad statement out here. Caleb Williams is going to struggle this year. Feel it or fuck it.
Relative to maybe his best years, I'll say feel it. I'd say relative to fantasy football, I'd say fuck it.
I'm with you.
And the reason is this, is that, as Dave and I were even talking about yesterday a little bit about this offline, was that, we both agree that, well, one, Dave brought up the point, he goes, Luther Burden wasn't the only one pulled off the field in that drill. Pretty much everybody was. He ended the drill because of some of the stuff that was going on. Ben Johnson is coaching this team hard. He's doing that because he wants to establish a no-nonsense, just the facts, work hard, be disciplined type of approach to a team and an organization that lost that long time ago. Not since probably peak Lovie Smith did they have that. It's been a while. So you have to understand that he's also throwing a lot at Caleb Williams, according to beat writers, where he's mixing up coverages and doing things that are more about not just making sure that everybody's lined up in the right place, everybody is that the execution is just smooth and that they're remembering the play. He's trying to make it more difficult so that these guys have had practice having to do some of the hard work that happens in the NFL game. And so it's hard coaching. Caleb Williams liked that. And I think that what we're going to see this year is a quarterback who, A, has a better offensive line that may have some ups and downs because they're trying to get rapport. B, he's going to have all of his plays are going to have dropbacks that are actually tied to the routes, and he doesn't have to make them up on his own and then have bad timing with his receivers, which is unheard of for what happened last year, was really unheard of. Oh, they're not going to have DJ Moore playing out of position and playing the X instead of having him play flanker. They're going to have additional support with Luther Burden and Colston Loveland. Colston Loveland is honestly head and shoulders better than Cole Kmet as a receiver.
Caught a touchdown in the aforementioned sloppy-ass practice. So.
Yes. So you have just reasons right there. Oh, yeah, and then he has Case Keenum in the quarterback room, an actual veteran who started for multiple teams, had multiple coaches in the NFL, and has had what you could say success as a journeyman starter. And that can be helpful to a young quarterback when Caleb Williams had nobody last year other than second-year Tyson Bagent and first-year Austin Reed. You don't win in a quarterback room and develop quarterbacks that way. Ask the Cleveland Browns. Well, don't ask the Cleveland Browns. They don't realize that either, probably, because they did it multiple times before, with Baker Mayfield and before. Williams is in a much better place, and even when they gave him just a little bit of aid last year, he was a top 15 quarterback and had a stretch where he was a top 5 quarterback last year. So
weeks 11 through 13, he was a top 5 quarterback. Yeah. Weeks 12 and 13, he was a top 3 quarterback. He was sacked 68 times. They laid the groundwork when they made the changes to the offensive line. Everything you said is 100% correct. It's going to be a process. We can think of what Dave Canales did in Carolina with Bryce Young. Also short up the offensive line. They're going to establish a strong rushing attack. Also, it took Bryce Young half a year to get it figured out, and it had to be benched at some point before it all clicked. And clicked it did, as Bryce Young was quarterback 6 from week 12 on last year.
And guess what? When the Lions had their first year, Bob, with Ben Johnson, even though they lost a lot of games, they played tight to the wire in almost every game. You could see them becoming a tougher team before your eyes if you actually watched the game, and as opposed to seeing the box score.
And another reminder is NFL success and fantasy success don't necessarily dovetail. I can get fantasy success without having great NFL success. I love the Ben Johnson. The goals coming in, we want him to throw 70%. He hit 62.5%. He was 31st out of 36 qualified quarterbacks last year, 62.5%. They want him to aim for 70%. Like only 5 guys did that last year. That's like us setting the bar high, but it goes to what you said. Ben Johnson is coming in and he's changing a culture. He's turning around a ship that's been heading in the wrong direction, quarterback-wise, for what? 1,000 years? I'm exaggerating, but not really. They have still never had a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards in Chicago Bears history. That seems like an easy bar to hit in this era of football. So yeah, I'm enthusiastic. You're not having to overpay for Caleb Williams. He's relatively cheap. I want to say right now he's quarterback 14 ADP, and we're projecting slightly higher football guys. Where are you projecting Matt?
Yeah, I think I got him somewhere around 12 or 13.
So there's a little bit of ADP inefficiency in there, but like if you're waiting around and he slips down to be your second quarterback, as he has in many drafts I've been in, I'm very happy about that. Big report yesterday: Kyle Monangai in that sloppy practice showed good pass protection skills. Are we all way too low on Kyle Monangai? Feel it or fuck it?
Oh, I feel that he's probably my single huge outlier in the football guys rankings right now. I have him as essentially as a low-end starter in a 3 running back league, I believe. I think he's going to be the number 2 in Chicago. I don't think it's going to be Rashawn Johnson. When you hear the talk from Ben Johnson, he said last night.
Pass protection.
Yeah, and what he said last night was, we can rely on Kyle Monangai this year. We can do that, and that's been a pleasant surprise. Well, I feel like we can go through the year with this guy. The thing to me is this: I'm not a logo scouter, but if I were going to be one and give you a shorthand, I would say this: over the past 5 to 6 years, if you're a NFL caliber running back who came out of Rutgers, the NFL is going to look a little easier for you in one respect, and that's that your linemen are actually going to reach their blocks. They're actually going, you're not going to have to create as much behind the line of scrimmage. Isaiah Pacheco was that way, having to deal with that when he came to the, he came out of Rutgers and then went to the Chiefs. I think Monangai is someone who's used to creases that are muddied, and you're going to see a player who is just a tough physical player who already understands that he's already had to deal a lot with the odds being kind of put against him based on just on-field play, which has made him a better processor on the field. So if the pass protection's there for him and they're liking what they're seeing, I think that, he's going to be the clear-cut number 2. And if DeAndre Swift gets banged up, Monangai could be an every week starter.
I can just feel Roschon Johnson's ears burning right now, saying, Matt Waldman not talking about me. Look.
They should have been burning 2-3 years ago. He's a little late. He's late to practice. Tom Coughlin isn't giving him a Werther's.
I feel like I'm setting you up here. Okay. Luther Burden won't be a fantasy factor in the Bears offense this year. Feel it or fuck it.
Yeah, fuck it. That's a... Listen, I understand that he was... that he got off to a bad start in practice and that he's behind the curve. And Ben Johnson is that guy who tells you the truth at moment's notice. If you said to him, Bob Harris is a slovenly mess because he saw Bob Harris taking out some sort of biscuit on and put it out on a table or something, and it's all, he might just comment about what he sees in the moment. But that's his, I joked last night, that's his shtick. He's retraining the media as much as he's retraining his players. He's retraining the Chicago media to kind of like them to get used to how he is. When he talks about Olamide Zaccheaus being one of the best players he's seen in practice, doesn't mean that he's going to start Olamide Zaccheaus. I mean, Zaccheaus is a favorite here, but he's probably not going to do that. He may feature him on certain plays, but the Bears media tends to be a little overreactive, and losing media or losing media of losing organizations tend to be overreactive about everything.
Feels like, and like there are certain cities too where they're just a little more curmudgeonly, and Philadelphia. I mean, you better be successful there. The New York, the Chicago, the big cities. I agree.
And they got retrained too.
Right. Well, success or not. I mean, in the case of Philadelphia, success makes everyone a little friendlier, but the scrutiny remains. We'll see with Luther Burden. I mean, I keep hearing great things about Rome Odunze, and I remind myself, wow, I can remember when we were having conversations this time last year, he was one of the best 3 prospects coming into the league at his position, yet he fell short. Is it possible he turns it around? I've heard people saying, oh, DJ Moore doesn't look great. And then I've heard he does look great. And I've heard he's being used all around the formation, doing different things. So, and Colston Loveland also kind of living up to expectations. So I think that's, I think there's a lot of mouths to feed here. So it all has to be really successful for all of them to be as productive as the happy stories we're telling ourselves at the moment. But I too am telling myself happy stories about some of these players. I'm telling myself a happy story about DeAndre Swift because, I mean, like, whatever I think of Kyle Monangai and Roschon Johnson, the moves they didn't make were not adding high-end, front-line players at the position or making free agent moves. So whether it's the satisfaction with Monangai, and that was the word, that it was the discussion was about pass protection, and he's a guy we can trust this fall. That's huge, right? Like, if you can pass protect, that's a big deal in the NFL right now, especially when you have a quarterback like Caleb Williams, who was sacked 68 times last year. So all these things, I think we should all temper our enthusiasm. Ben Johnson's a great coach. He had the most prolific offense in the NFL. I think it's going to come out pretty well. I think
but it's how you define happy, Bob. And like, to me, if I were to define happy, I would say all those guys are going to give you startable value, but I would have to be ecstatic to say they're going to be every week starters. And we have to remember Rome Odunze is going to be the X, meaning that he's going to do a lot more of the sacrificial vertical stuff or the low percentage vertical stuff. And that means that DJ Moore and Luther Burden might be a little better than people think in a passing offense that likes to throw the short stuff. And that Odunze, everyone's hyping up, but I don't think they're in an offense where you're going to have Joe Burrow throwing to him like he's Jamar Chase, downfield. So, I could see where people are a little too high on Odunze, a little too low on Moore and Burden, and just writing off Colston Loveland until now, and realize that they may all be on that border of starter, depending on how big your league is. But none of them may end up being like top 20.
All right, and that seems pretty reasonable. In Arizona, we're all drafting James Conner as though he's going to be James Conner, meaning we're drafting him lower than we should at running back 19 if he's going to be what he usually is. Right. Usually outperforms that. We're drafting Trey Benson as running back 48 in the 13th round. According to James Conner, we should start paying up. And it's going to be more of a split this year. We started hearing about this in, I want to say, when we always start hearing about things that actually happen at the scouting combine. Jonathan Gannon started discussing the possibility of a 1A, 1B backfield. Do you think that's going to be the case? Are we too low on Trey Benson, Matt? Feel it or fuck it?
I feel it. I think we are. I mean, just the fact that you have your starting running back talking about that. And he's a guy who has perspective. I mean, this is an older running back who has really taken care of himself and understands what it means to play into your 30s at the level that he has. But I think he also has some perspective, knowing that he's had to battle for his life, with a life-threatening illness back in his college days. I think he has enough perspective to look at the NFL and go, okay, there's going to be a time this is going to be over, and that the sun is beginning to set on the horizon for my career. And he wants to be a good teammate to Benson and a good teammate to, for the organization. And Benson is a talented guy. He's got good speed. He's got decent enough power. If he's, there's potential for him as a pass catcher. He's more of a big play threat than what Conner ever really was. So I think Conner still leads this backfield, and maybe it's more of a 2/3 to 1/3 kind of margin, but I think that it's substantial enough that Benson is someone that we can't be too low on.
Yeah, I think, well, here's going to be the problem. Last year it was, 236 carries to 63. They just paid Connor this offseason. He had a career best 1,094 yards, finishes running back 11. That's usually right where he's like when he's playing, when he's on the field, whether that's his season-long production, he's at the tail end of the running back one, spectrum. Does he maybe fall back out of there? Maybe we've been drafting Connor correctly at running back 19, and we're just a little low on Benson. My thought would be we'll overreact to this single item as we overreact to single items of everything, as you heard based on some of our discussion already. And people will overreact and start paying a little more for Trey Benson than maybe they should, and that's fine. I'll continue getting Connor if he drops. But I will try to get some shares of Benson right now. I think, young talent, contingent upside if he gets the full role. A lot of things to like as long as he's down in that price range, that 13th round, double-digit. As long as he's in the double-digit rounds, I think it's a fair gamble. So I'll be doing some of that for sure. And James Conner, he is a good team man. He said he is more important for the team to win than him to get the carries. So congratulations to him. That doesn't help us, James.
But yeah, the guy who plays this, I respect that Kyler Murray plays him some chess and likes to play chess, but he will
murder you on Call of Duty.
We need him to be more the king than the queen on the board in the pocket. That's all I'll say.
Oh, fair enough. That sounds like a slight. Noah Fant will be a fantasy factor in Cincinnati. Feel it or fuck it.
Fuck it. He's not going to be a fan. He's the Gabriel Davis. He's like an aspiring Gabriel Davis of tight ends in the sense that the Broncos spent an early pick, a first-round pick, I believe, on Noah Fant. Great athlete. Really not great at positioning himself to the ball. Not a great route runner. Had some issues fighting the football at Iowa from time to time. Just really good runner after the catch who had some decent blocking ability. And they tried to force him into becoming their next Travis Kelce, but he couldn't run man-to-man routes very well, so that they had to justify their pick by scheming him open a lot like they do with Gabriel. They did with Gabriel Davis in Buffalo. Of course, Davis was not remotely a first or second day pick. I believe he was an early third day pick, like a fifth round guy. So Fant getting summarily dismissed from Denver in late July before they've even seen him in camp tells you, and they have
then again in Seattle,
Evan Ingram. In Seattle. Excuse me.
Well, it happened before in Denver, and now in Seattle.
And now in Seattle, he's getting summarily dismissed. And what they have is A.J. Barner, who is a very good blocker and good short-range zone receiver. And then they have a rookie in Elijah Arroyo, who has a ton of promise, but will the development be there? Not sure. This is not a great scenario in Seattle. You look at Seattle, if they're getting rid of Fant right then and there, that just tells you that they don't think he has much to offer in the positive. And the fact that the Bengals signed him when they already have, they signed an athlete. They got probably a guy who could replace Eric All as kind of a fullback type of blocker.
Right. That's what they don't have.
Yeah.
That's right. That's the thing they don't have. So
poor fantasy outlook for Fant.
Yeah, 100% in on that. We're all way too low on Steelers tight end Pat Freiermuth. Feel it or fuck it.
Most of us are. I know I'm not, but this is my gratuitous ego of my writing this question. I think Bob is saying that, but I really just want to put out the point on Freiermuth is that most people are way too low on him, and the reason being is that they hate the idea of the Jonnu Smith addition because of what Smith did last year. But if you look at his role in Arthur Smith's offense, he was able to provide low end, running back, tight end 1 or high end tight end 2 production based on what size your league is. But he's going to be used a lot in the flats. He'll get some red zone love because of the work he can do in the flats. But he's used to dump the ball off and let him run. When you ask him to track the football one-on-one against tight coverage, make him win against man-to-man coverage up the seam, he's not very good at that. It's not his top thing. Pat Freiermuth, on the other hand, really great at tracking the ball, really good at one-on-one coverage in the red zone area, and an excellent contested catch player who's got some power in his own right. I think you're going to see Pat Freiermuth lead the Steelers in touchdowns this year. It's not going to be DK Metcalf. It's not going to be Calvin Austin. or Jaylen, Warren or anybody like that. It's going to be Freiermuth. I think he gets double-digit touchdowns, and you're still going to probably see him get somewhere between 600 to 700 yards as a receiver. And, Aaron Rodgers, you saw it last year. He was on track, most on track as a touchdown producer. He was getting good love from both, from Fields, Justin Fields, and from Russell Wilson. And before all that, he really didn't have a quarterback who could target him one-on-one at a level that they should. Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to do that, and they say that connection is really good, Bob.
Yeah, I was looking for the actual quote here. I think it was Mark Kamali, from longtime beat writer, said that it looks like Freiermuth is going to be the heartbeat of this offense, and that makes sense. The pricing is why I have him. I've been getting him on a ton of rosters. So whatever shares I have of Jonnu Smith right now, I acquired while he was still with Miami, and it seemed like as we came into just before the trade, just before the end of June when he was traded, it seemed like that talk had quieted. So I was drafting him like that and drafting him inside the top 10. I have way more shares of him than I need right now, and I have Freiermuth. I just find him in mock drafts or in best ball drafts right now, going at a time where I just can't resist. Tight end 24 at the pick 195 overall.
Cut that in half, and that's where he's going to be.
Right. I think that's way more reasonable. So I'm totally feeling that as well. Michael Pittman Jr. By the way, just news coming out as we're recording this on Monday. The depth chart is out for the Indianapolis Colts, and they list Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson, the word "or" being used as their starting quarterback. So we got that going for us. Michael Pittman, the receiver, Michael Pittman Jr. is way overrated. Feel it or fuck it.
Way overrated, no, but overrated, I do feel it. Yes.
You are a horrible human.
But I mean, listen, I think he was kind of a limited route runner at USC. I felt like they like to feature him on crossing routes, hooks, and then the vertical, and let him go up and win it. He's good after the catch, and he does those things really well. I don't think he's a great wide receiver number one. So I kind of find that it's like Indianapolis stuck these quarterbacks with players they don't have a singular primary ball winner. And Pittman gets a lot of his share on over routes and crossing routes, and that's where he does most of his damage. I think he's a good NFL player. I just don't think that they have themselves a Devontae Adams primary type. Right. And to say he's a wide receiver one, I think is remiss. He'd be a nice T. Higgins type of receiver, and I don't even think he's as good as T.
Yeah, I think that's I'm not even going to argue with you on this one. We've got a lot of evidence here, and they have a lot of guys on this offense that seem to fall just short of expectations. He is another one of them, right? Aside from Jonathan Taylor, who do you feel great? We both like Anthony Richardson, and we see the high end, but he's disappointing more often than not. Aside from Jonathan Taylor, when he's healthy, who on this offense isn't more disappointing more often than not? It's just that just seems to be how it is. So I think I don't want to say overrated because I'm going to leave Matt Waldman to be the mean guy, but definitely not as valuable in fantasy as I would like him to be. How about that? Feel that?
Yeah,
feel that, Matt Waldman.
There we go.
We're gonna see a running back committee in Seattle. Feel it or fuck it.
I'm feeling that. I would say Seattle is, as I've been updating my projections, I feel like the Seattle running back thing has been the most confusing one for me, the most puzzling one for me to figure out. And at the end of the night, after I kind of went back and forth on it, I read about in the news that, there's some idea that maybe they will roll more with a committee this year because they're concerned about Kenneth Walker's ability to stay healthy. And that was kind of my concern, because you look at how well Zach Charbonnet played, and you think, that could, that certainly makes sense that you'd want to see him on the field more, as good. But the thing is Kenneth Walker is one of those players that, when healthy and right, could give you some junior Christian McCaffrey-esque type of vibes. And Clint Kubiak likes to run that outside zone, and I think that Walker's one of the best perimeter runners in the league. But so that one's a little bit rough for me, but I'm going with the split.
Let me help you. Fuck that. Okay. Ain't no split. So I talked to Greg Bell from the Tacoma News Tribune the other night, and my fuck that comes from him, and he didn't say fuck that, but he might as well have. He said this is not a 1A, 1B. This is a Kenneth Walker featured role with Zach Charbonnet spelling him. And you even look at last year, Mike Clay had some numbers. In 11 games together, Walker handled 68% of the carries, 14% of the targets, compared to 19% and 8% for Charbonnet. He had 6.5 fantasy points per game in those weeks where he was spelling him, right? And I think that would be my expectation. Do they want to keep him healthy? Do they want to keep Kenneth Walker healthy? Yes. Right now he is. He had some mild foot soreness. The only comments I've seen about anything came when Walker was sitting down, right? The only positive Charbonnet comment I've seen. Now, you suppose that's because somebody got asked a question that set them up to make a quote about, Charbonnet, he's great because he's playing today. I'm going to guess that because every single thing, find somebody who talks about you the way Clint Kubiak talks about Kenneth Walker III. That's not a one-time thing, not a two-time thing, and not a three-time thing. It's an every single fucking time thing. He can't say enough. Some of the quotes are like, I've seen a guy that can catch the ball well in the backfield. It's important for our backs. We utilize him. Whatever we can do to get him touches, throwing him routes, whatever it takes to get the ball in his hands, I look forward to him in the scheme. This was Saturday. What did he say when he signed up there? We're going to get the ball to our best runner, and that's Walker. That was the day he took the job. He's talked about his speed, which, is near and dear to my heart. So yeah, I get, we all get nervous about these things. We've had these similar discussions about many backs many times. I'm just going to go with the preponderance of evidence and not the single data point on this one.
Oh.
And I'm going to go with Walker and not Charbonnet. Look, Charbonnet's capable. If something happens or if things evolve, sure. But listening to the people on the ground right now as well, as fervent as I am, and beat writers are not real strong in the opinions. You don't hear a lot of beat writers come out as strong as
that's music to my ears, Bob. Honestly,
is what I've heard. So, well, I mean, I've just been following closely because I've been in on Walker all along and you got me onto it because you were the one who noted that his skills meet what Kubiak likes to do, and we saw last year the outside zone run. What was the percentage, or what did that do for Alvin Kamara?
Yeah,
right.
Didn't do well. They didn't have enough. They had Trevor Penning mucking up the works, and Derek and Carr too. So
yeah. So
not great.
So I think this is a good spot for Kenneth Walker. I'm drafting him aggressively. I'm ranking him aggressively for those reasons. And nothing I heard this weekend about Charbonnet getting a good day of practice is scaring me off that for now. But I'm willing to adjust if information continues to change. Information is changing on Khalil Shakir. He has a high ankle sprain. How worried should we be, Matt?
I think we should definitely monitor that, and I think that you could expect for him to be slow for the first 2 to 4 games of the year. I know that he should be, quote-unquote, ready to play to begin the year, depending on how severe the high ankle sprain is. So if he's, if it's mild the way it was first stated, it's hard to have a mild high ankle sprain. But if it's mild for a high ankle sprain, then yeah, maybe he's back into the mix of things. But the incident of re-injury can be a little bit higher. So I think that there's enough opportunity, and when you look at how the Bills are, they will, even though he may be their most reliable receiver, they may feel good about giving him a little extra rest just to make sure he's ready for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I'll buy into all that, and of course that opens the door for Keon Coleman to be a dominant force, and I'm fully expecting that. Feel it? No, probably not. I'm probably overstating the case a little bit. Wish casting, people, don't take that seriously. It was a joke. Kind of, unless it comes true. Then it wasn't. The Commanders. The Commanders will try. Yeah, we're going to clip that little piece. Yeah, sir. My strident tone, and clip that little piece and put it out there. The Commanders will trade Terry McLaurin. Feel it or fuck it.
Oh, fuck that. They're not trading him. I mean, if they trade him, this whole thing falls apart. I hate to say that, but that's the truth of the matter, because he's their best receiver, and they're not going to find anybody who's going to be able to step in there and do what Terry McLaurin does at this point. He's a good route runner. He's an excellent contested catch player. He gives them that field stretching ability. So, and he's going to have to learn a new offense and new quarterback like in less than a month. That's not a pretty sight. We can see what happens with veteran players who are known for their route running and pass catching ability when they get traded midseason. It's usually not pretty. So, no.
This is the part where I remind everybody of the usual caveats here. The public portion of negotiations are always the most contentious parts, the parts behind the scenes where people are talking and doing the numbers and all those kind of things. That's why you have someone saying, I want traded, and a day later he's the happiest man alive when he has his new deal. So we'll see. And you're correct. They've got Jayden Daniels on it. Like, it would be like nothing I've seen in Washington suggests malpractice. Front office malpractice is coming, right? And the day they paid Deebo Samuel $2 million more than they were going to pay Terry McLaurin this year, they knew they were going to pay Terry McLaurin more. Yeah. I mean, they had to, right? Yeah. So this will get figured out. If it doesn't, Jayden Daniels falls out of top 10 value if McLaurin is traded. I know you feel this because you want this to happen. You're just begging for this to happen. You want this to happen so bad you can taste it.
Who's mean? I have no idea. I have no idea who's mean on this show. I think we know who looks mean on this show. We also know who manipulates the mean on this show. Yes, and he's smiling. There we go. So, yes, I think he would fall out of the top 10 if Terry McLaurin weren't there, just because he doesn't have the efficiency of the players who can do what McLaurin does, and it would really hurt this offense. And I think that it would be more a struggle with the offense than it would be with Daniels. Daniels is going to probably encounter more obstacles this year anyway, but I feel like I have him appropriately just outside the top 5 right now, or in hovering around the top 5, but not inside of it. A little lower than a lot of people have him. And I think that's about right. Good football player, good young quarterback. He's going to be fine. But maybe he's not ascending to QB1 value this year. But without McLaurin, we would be going the opposite direction, and you would have me on the show saying he's underrated now at this point.
Correct. I think all that's correct. And even me, he's generally going as a quarterback 3. That's fine. I'm probably waiting and not getting him as quarterback 3. I'd probably rather have Joe Burrow as quarterback 5 right now, having a full offseason and a full training camp and all the pieces in place to get off to a faster start, because we saw the smoking hot finish last year. He doesn't have the rushing equity, and I think that's the thing that's always going to keep Jayden Daniels. I mean, he run for 981 yards as a rookie.
Right.
As long as you're healthy, that upside, that rushing upside, that Konami code kind of value is going to keep you where you are. But I might rather go a little cheaper for some of the reasons you said. Also, drafting a hell of a lot of Jaydon Blue. I've been cyclical on this. Jaydon Blue will be a lead back by the end of the year in Dallas. Feel it or fuck it.
I'm feeling it. I just think that he's the guy with the best skills on this roster for the position. I mean, he's a good pass catcher. He's kind of an Austin Eckler-esque type of talent, who's just young and has to grow into his paws, and that might be a little difficult in Dallas. But I think that if they can keep that interior healthy with Tyron Smith, that he could be pretty good. And I just don't trust Javonte. I don't trust Miles Sanders at all. Javonte Williams, I could get talked into that. But I think that we're going to see a committee split, and by the end of the year, it's going to be Jaydon Blue emerging.
Yeah, I think that's not unreasonable. There comes a point in draft where there's a whole knot of guys. It's Javonte Williams first, then probably Travis Etienne's in there, Tank Bigsby's in there, Bagshaw Tootin's in there, Jaden Blue's in there, and I have some shares of all of them. But I like Blue for the reason I've stated on this program and my radio program, is sometimes, the different piece is the piece that gains a little ground. And after the initial reports saying he was lazy, that were leaked out. Sounds like the motivation worked, that he has not been lazy. He's been drawing nothing but rave reviews from Brian Schottenheimer since then. So yeah, I think if it costs right now, I'm going to have a heck of a lot of Jaden Blue. Dillon Gabriel is a for-real starter prospect in Cleveland. Feel it or fuck it.
Fuck that.
Come on, man.
Maybe in a couple years, maybe he really turns it around. But I mean, really, this guy, they talked about how they loved his processing. I studied this guy's processing. Maybe it was processing the whiteboard, which a lot of teams are still making that mistake. I heard how good of a processor and how great Desmond Ridder aced the whiteboard. And I would say that based on what I saw on the field with Desmond Ridder making decisions, engaging the trajectory of defenders and their approach towards receivers, I would say that this guy was probably the best candidate of the quarterbacks in the NFL to need mommy to hold his hand while he was 16 years old crossing the street, because he was surely going to get hit by a car, judging that type of a distance.
So harsh.
I'm telling you. But I would say that Gabriel maybe isn't quite that bad, but he has some issues with that. It's going to take some time. And the last practice he had, Sunday night, there was some good reporting on ESPN talking about the defense was switching up looks. They were trying to do some pre-snap disguises. They were trying to do things to make him think, and he had an awful practice. Doesn't mean he's always going to be that way. It just means that he is that way right now. He is not a starting caliber candidate right now.
I'm not in a position to argue with you because he's a Cleveland Brown quarterback. I don't know that any of them truly are, but I'll take Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett early on to hope with my shares of other pieces. Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku, maybe Cedric Tillman or two.
The odds are, let's ask this, the odds are that the Cleveland Browns ownership will fuck up who the best quarterback prospect in this next draft will be.
Well, Jimmy Haslam's already said he wants to see Shedeur Sanders play this year, so we've got that going for us.
Yeah, Jimmy's I can't wait for when there's a slam dunk prospect out of the group and he's going to pick the fringe one.
Cam Skattebo will be the lead back in New York by year's end. Feel it or fuck it.
I'd say feel it all summer, but I'm on the fence. I'm gonna say
feel it.
I want to. I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say I feel it.
Thank you.
I do think Tyrone Tracy has probably got the stranglehold on the job to start with, mainly because Skattebo has looked good, but pass protection has been his big issue for a while, and he's got to learn not to lead with his head. He's going to have to be a little bit better as a blocker, and if he can figure that out, I think by the time we get to November, he may be stealing some touches from Tyrone Tracy. But it's a tough one. There's a part my gut's telling me when Bob isn't in my ear urging me that maybe we should pump the brakes a little bit on that.
It's for sure going to be a process. I talked to Chris Pisignano from Giant Insider. He's really enthusiastic about him, but he acknowledged it. This is not as strident as a take as my Walker here, I assure you. This is like a belief that someone's going to, this is going to be an evolution. It's going to start out Tyrone Tracy, but we've seen his shortcomings. The thing that keeps standing out to me, though, is all the commentary from Pisignano to all the beat writers on the ground as well. Besides him, coaching staff talking up with Skattebo as a receiver. Well, that's not Tyrone Tracy's strength, if I recall correctly last year. He does not always catch the football. So, but also, at Arizona State, he ran behind poor blocking. He does not going to have the best blocking. I feel like that's one of the reasons they drafted him, is they think his skill set, is a good fit. So it's going to be an evolution. It's going to take time. It'll start out as a split to whatever degree it needs to be, with Tracy leading the way. But I think he could be. I think by year's end, feeling that to a moderate degree. KeAndre-Lambert Smith in Los Angeles could overtake Tre Harris on the depth chart. Feel it or fuck it.
Well, I mean, we're going to be slandering a Harris here if we talk about that, if that's a possibility. But I think it is a possibility. KeAndre-Lambert Smith is kind of one of those underrated players that came out of the draft who can run routes pretty well. And he just was kind of in a bad situation at Auburn. But he has decent speed, he has decent size, he catches the ball pretty well. His route running was good. His ability to work against press coverage was a thing that you're going to have to see a little bit more and get a little bit more experience with. But Tre Harris is kind of an up and down player. From he does the spectacular, but the mundane things he's going to have to get a little bit better at. The details he's going to have to get better at. So if Smith is off to a good start and there's talk that he may be on the field more than people expect come September, I could see how that might happen. I'm feeling the possibility. Let's put it that way.
I have 3 words. 4, 3, 7. No. He's very fast. Is Smith? We'll see. Lambert Smith. I'm sorry. We'll see. I mean, Tre Harris, a little bit of a slow start. It was super productive in a narrow, an injury narrowed band last year. So, the draft.
You need to read to your nephew Harris the RSP, like the scouting section of that, as bedtime stories to him until he starts to figure it out.
I think he will figure it out. But again, we're talking about the Chargers offense where having multiple fantasy relevant receivers is not the norm has not been the norm over the course of his career for Greg Roman in his offenses. Even the pass happier ones, it was like, generally one guy that really stood out from the crowd. And we're betting on Lad McConkey, the child prodigy, to continue prodigying. At least I am. So there we have it. That's it for this week's episode of Field or Fuck It. Hit me up at the expo if you're there. We'll see you there. Otherwise, there'll be you'll find me at Football Guys. You'll hear me on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. I'm on 8 to 10 p.m. with Mike Dempsey every single weeknight.
But don't hit Bob. He's a sensitive guy.
You can hit me if you want. I'm fine with it.
You'd probably be the person I'd want to be in a bar that's a little bit rowdy. I got to be honest about that. You'd probably be the one that I'd want to.
Well, I'd be sober, so I have that going for me.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Check out the MattWaldman.com, the rookie scouting portfolio August update coming out. When he starts hinting that, maybe tonight, probably look for it tomorrow. But hey, that's just me. I'm not officially making an announcement. I'm just saying that's usually how it works out. Probably Matt, you're gonna have to. I'm gonna be at the expo next week, so you're gonna have to try to Wally pit me or ride solo next week. So I will miss you all next week. So say hi to me at the expo if you're there.
Sounds
Otherwise.
Good. I think I got some date with some dude on a couch coming up.
Oh, I got one of those too.
Yeah, see, look at that. Look at that. He's got us on the same list. You can see what he's doing here.
I feel I know what Bloom's up to. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Matt will see you next week. Love you. Goodbye.
Love you. Bye.